welcome to today's episode, and what I'm going to be first doing is setting up an XP grinder to take advantage of this dungeon and this mob spawner. So the second thing I gotta do in this episode involves these guys right here. I'm going to be corralling a couple of them into a villager breeder so that I can start breeding some villagers for some things I want to do down the line. Why are you staring at me? So why don't we get started? So before we get into the dungeon and the villager breeder, let's go through some other things that I did before this. I took advantage of my new kelp farm by smelting some kelp, then I took out the dried kelp from the furnace, crafted it into dried kelp blocks that I can eventually use for fuel. I disenchanted some armor I've got from mob drops. It wasn't that much XP. I then smelted the armor down and got some nuggets that I can eventually craft into ingots. I moved some things around my storage and put some items in the input chest for my storage system. Harvested some wheat and then I planted some new wheat seeds. Took this wheat and fed it to the cow so I can eventually get some leather. I went into the Nether to get some soul sand for the upward column I'll need in the XP grinder. In doing this, I ran into a ghast that was shooting fireballs at me. I was able to deflect a fireball into the ghast and kill it. Unfortunately, I didn't get a ghast here. After that, I grabbed a couple of stacks of soul sand, stared at my map wall, which I do a lot, and decided to map out another area. The first thing I had to do was get to the bottom left corner of the map next to the area I wanted to map. Then when I have the coordinates of the bottom left spot in that map, I'd have to travel 2048 blocks to the bottom left corner of the next area I wanted to map, which was easy because it was mostly ocean. Then I actually used the map in the bottom left corner and expanded it out to the maximum size, 2048 by 2048, using paper in the cartography table. Mapped the coastline while getting shot by skeletons. I found another ruined portal. At this point, they aren't that interesting to me since I found a dozen or 2 dozen ruined portals. Traveled through a warm ocean that has coral blocks, coral fans, and sea pickles. Set up another portal in the top left corner of the map to make it easier to map the area above that and also move a long distance easier. I mapped out the outside edges of the map. I found a mushroom island or mushroom island, a very cool biome that hostile mobs don't spawn in this biome, so you don't have to light up the entire area. Spotted some red mushrooms. Instead of milk, you can get mushroom soup from them. I set up a nether portal on the mushroom island just in case I wanted some mushrooms. I finally finished mapping out the area. It was coastline, some islands, mostly ocean. Then I headed back to my base and finally added the map to my map wall. I'm close to mapping 4,000 blocks in each direction from my base. Of course, after this, I have to connect all of the nether portals up. I had to dig hundreds of blocks in the nether to find the points where the nether portals needed to be. I had some fun moments where there were giant drops where I had to place blocks to get across. In the process, I got the hot tourist achievement for visiting all the nether biomes, even though I was traveling through the ceiling. I got the nether portal set up in the mushroom biome very easily. I did the math wrong on the second portal and had another portal in the middle of the ocean, high above the ocean. Eventually I connected the second nether portal in the right spot. So here I am in the dungeon and I'll show you all the supplies I need for this. So the key things are soul sand, water buckets, hoppers, just building blocks in general, half slabs, oak signs, kelp, chests, and a pressure plate. So the pressure plate is so that mobs don't spawn on a specific block. Oak signs are so the water won't spill out of a elevator. Kelp is for placing water source blocks, chests for obvious reasons, hoppers to put items into the chest, and the soul sand for the item elevator or the mobs to go up in this point. So let's build this thing. So just to be clear, this farm is called a zombie spawner XP grinder. For this farm, you can find it in a bunch of different videos, and there are small modifications in each video. I'll have a link to a tutorial on this farm and how to build it, and also one that tries to improve the efficiency of the farm. The first thing I did was disable the spawner by placing torches so zombies can't spawn. I mine out 4 blocks in each direction of the mob spawner. Also mine 3 blocks above the spawner and 3 blocks below the spawner. The area mined out is 9 by 9 and 7 blocks tall, with the spawner in the middle. I placed 3 blocks above the spawner to prevent the mobs from spawning on top of the spawner. Now find a spot to build a 3 wide space and put down 2 water buckets at each end to get an infinity water pool, making it easier to get water buckets. Place a water bucket in each corner and dig out so it'll push out the mobs into one area against the wall. Mine 4 forward in the wall. 3 blocks into that space, place a pressure plate that will prevent mobs from spawning in that spot and water flowing out from the upward bubble column, and above this, place a sign. At the 4th block, place a soul sand block at the bottom. Dig up from the spot 25 blocks. At the top, mine 3 blocks forward and 2 blocks tall. Place a sign at the bottom so that the water from the bubble column will not drop into the next column. Now place a water bucket above the column that you just dug out. Swim down to the bottom of this column and place kelp blocks going up to the top, and this will make all of the water blocks water source blocks, which is important because it pushes items up and also mobs upwards. Now go to the top of this, and where you put the sign at that spot, dig down 25 blocks down. At the bottom, place a hopper at the same level as the block of soul sand. Connect the hopper to as many chests and add hoppers as needed. Place a slab on top of the hopper and make sure the space is only half a block tall, so mobs can't attack you. The distance the mobs fall should make them take enough fall damage where it will only take 1 hit to kill them. If you remove the slab, the mobs will die from fall damage. The player has to be 16 blocks spherically of the mob spawner for it to spawn mobs, and this distance where you are to kill the mobs is close enough for that to happen. After this, take out any torches or light sources that you placed in the dungeon and block up the entire dungeon so it'll start spawning mobs. So why am I out at this beach? It involves these guys. So when I was building the XP grinder, I had an idea, and it involves seagrass. So as you can see, if I use shears on seagrass, they'll drop as a block, and then I can pick them up, and then hopefully this will work like I think it will. And just go over to these turtles, and I believe this should be their home beach, so hopefully they won't travel a far distance away. But you just feed the seagrass to the turtle, and to that turtle, and then they go into love mode. They should breed, and one of them should go to their home beach. There we go. So we got our turtle eggs. And you use silk touch on them, and they will drop as a block. I was able to get 2 turtle eggs, which will be useful. Okay, so while I was building the XP grinder, I kind of came to the realization that there was a potential modification that I could make that would actually make it more efficient. So this is the same design as most people usually make. I took out the water. I think this will still work without it. And what I did, let's see if I can find. So what I did is I have this little hole here with 2 trap doors, and what I'm going to do is put a turtle egg there. And of course, because they are zombies, they should just spawn right in here, walk towards the turtle egg, and then they will try to stomp it, but they'll fall through here. And then there is an item elevator up there, so it'll take them all the way up, and then they'll drop down onto a block, and then I can kill them a lot easier here. So let's see if this works. Let's see if what I think should work will work. So let's take out these torches. I don't think the mobs are getting as caught up at that point of entry where they go up the item elevator. I'll have to double check, but after I made the modifications with the turtle eggs, I went into creative and tried to build a version of the farm and wanted to see if it was more efficient than the version that most people use. And unfortunately the answer really is no. So what I found was, first of all, not placing water in here was a big mistake, because when the zombies spawn, they will take fall damage if they don't have any water down here. So that means when they actually fall down in the XP grinder, it will actually not be consistent. So some mobs will die just from the fall and some won't. And you want them to have the same amount of health when they fall. So it makes sense to put water down here so they won't take any damage, or at least fall damage. And then the next thing I figured out was that water pushing them into here is about the same as actually just them pathfinding to find the turtle egg. So I think it's maybe a little quicker if you use the turtle egg, but it's such a small difference that I don't think it's worth doing all the extra steps for that. So I would say it's not a great modification. I think there is potentially something you could do with this mechanic of the turtle eggs to make it a little easier. I mean, the real problem with this farm is that they get clogged up in here. So if there was a way to actually make this easier, it might make this farm a lot more efficient. But I mean, most of the time when these mobs spawn, they're already outside the distance of the mob spawner, so it doesn't really affect that much. If they get like stuck in here, it's a little boring for them to actually eventually get into the column and go up to the top and be killed. So yeah, just build the normal one, and I'll keep doing my research to see if there's a way to modify and make this better. Okay, right now I am in the village, and what I'm planning on doing is getting some villagers into the Nether, transporting them to my base so I can set up a villager breeder. And the 3 things I brought, well, it's 4 things, is a boat, a lever, a piston, and some building blocks. And the reason for this is a boat is a good way of transporting mobs, because if they are close, if their hitbox is close, let's see if I can do this, nope. If their hitbox is close, then they will be transformed into the boat like that right there. And the thing with the piston is, like for example here, it's a different level, so the boat will go down, it'll get stuck because it can't go up. So what you would need to do is put a piston down like this, put the lever there, and it can push it up. And what you can do also is you can take some blocks like this, you can go like that, take it down, put more blocks, and you can keep pushing a mob that's in a boat like this up until you can get it to the spot you want. So this is going to take a while because I need to get 2 over there, and I have a feeling that I'm going to have to do it more than twice because I might lose a couple along the way. Okay, so it took quite a while, but I finally got my 2 villagers at my base. Now the thing is, because of the bad omen effect, I don't want to put them too close to my main sections that I'll be walking around. So I probably want to put them a bit further away from the main stuff. So it'll probably be a good idea to put them over here, more towards the area I haven't even go around or don't use that much. That way, if I get the bad omen effect, I'm about like at least 50 or so blocks away, so I won't trigger a raid. Plus they'll still be within distance that they'll be breeding, and I can use any farms that I create with them. So let's go over there and try to avoid that creeper over there. Or is it a cactus? It's hard to tell. No, it's definitely a creeper. Okay, so we're just gonna hide them in here. Gonna throw some torches around here so they don't die from mobs spawning in here. So I think it's time for a time lapse. here I am in the villager breeder. You can see the 2 job site blocks, the 2 villagers that are farmers. It takes use of the most amount of area that a villager can do. And you can see they become willing because they're passing wheat back, or bread back and forth. So hopefully when they breed, you'll see how this farm functions. So they're both willing, and you can see there's a baby right there. So let's see if this baby does what I want them to do. It's hard to tell because it's right in the villager. So the baby will, there, he did it. So with the babies, they actually want to jump on these beds that are over here. And this space is 1 block tall, so they try to go under here, or well, what basically the trap doors. They think that that's actual block they can walk on, so they try to walk under here towards the beds. They can't recognize those are trap doors and they're open, so they fall into the water stream into the area over here. So everything else about this farm is it's enclosed, so it won't get hit by lightning. No mobs can attack them. It's all lit up, and it's pretty straightforward. There are beds over here. This basically makes the baby villagers move towards there and try to jump on the beds, fall in there as I showed you. And these guys will just keep farming all of this area, and then when they have enough food, they'll pass it back and forth between each other and become willing and breed another baby villager. And the other thing is, usually with these farms, they try to cover up these blocks so the farmers don't fall into the composters, but a new addition in the 1.16 update was that villagers can actually use bone meal now. So you can see it's right here. They can basically use their excess seeds and put it into the composter so they can get bone meal and actually use it on crops. So that's a nice addition from the 1.16 update. Another thing is I had to add a door so villagers can't use iron doors and buttons, so that way I can just get in and out. So here is where the baby villager ends up. And right now I don't have a transportation system for this villager to go to a farm or a trading hall. Right now I don't need that, so hopefully these guys will just keep breeding and I can get more villagers to eventually set up for a farm. I think that's enough for today, and thank you for watching.